Good morning. My name is Karen A., and this is the Reco12 Afro-Euro Timezone podcast. We bring speakers together who have recovered to the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and have recovered from all addictions and all afflictions. You could check us out at Reco12.com. We've got a number of recorded shares and podcasts, including the Big Book Roundtable, Noodle It Out with Nikki, this podcast that I host with different speakers every week in the Afro-Euro Timezone, and of course, the flagship product, Justin's Reco12 series, where different recovered fellows share all around their world in all around different fellowships, their experience, strength, and hope. If you'd like to contribute a seventh tradition, we do have costs to run this Zoom line, etc. You could go to reco12.com/support and contribute. If you want to forward this share later on today or the minute it's posted, it might be tomorrow, or any other amazing podcasts, and we've had lots of them from Reco12.com, you're free to send those links around. Without further ado, I'm going to share with you that I'm so honored to meet Lorrie, a fellow. I don't even know where you're based, Lorrie. I'm just on Spilkis waiting to hear where you're from and your story and to get inspired by you here today. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Lorrie, who's going to share a little bit about herself, her experience, strength, and hope for about 20 to 25 minutes. If you all have questions, you could jot them in the chat or write them down. And Lorrie, we will take the questions after your share, so you don't have to pay attention to the chat as you're speaking or lose your train of thought. Just everybody write your questions in the chat. And I do encourage you to learn from Lorrie, because she's been in these rooms for quite some time and she's been in different fellowships. So whatever it is, you want to hear more about her story, her program, how she gets to God, how she works with others. Let's make sure we're active and taking notes and asking the way. Welcome, Lorrie.
Good morning. Thank you. Well, good morning. Thank you. It's still morning for you people. I'm in Massachusetts. I'm in the States. So it's a little bit early. I'm an early riser, so that's why I said yes to do this. But can you hear me?
Hear you.
You can't hear me? Well,
I hear you great, Lorrie.
Anyone else hear Lorrie? I can't.
I can hear you.
I hear Lorrie.
I hear Lorrie.
Hi, good morning. I don't know what to do about that. I'm on audio with but that's for me to hear you. So I would assume it's your audio that's an issue.
Okay, hold on. I might be the issue. It might be my Bluetooth. Can I speak now?
Yes. Yeah, it's Lorrie from Massachusetts. I'm from the States. Should I go ahead? Can you hear me, Karen?
Try now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Hello.
Yeah, I'm speaking. Kay can hear me. Razzie can hear me. Yeah. I don't know. I'll wait for Karen I don't see her on video. I don't know if she's checking out her computer to see if she can get the audio on her side better. So I assume I'm going to wait a few minutes here and see what happens. I don't know whether to just go ahead and speak. Well, I think we're being
start with a
recorded.
prayer if you want, Lorrie.
Say what, Brandy?
You can start with a prayer if you want, and then if
Okay.
you want.
Okay, I'm going to start with the third step prayer. God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. So my name is Lorrie. I'm from Massachusetts. I'm on the East Coast of the US, and Brindy suggested I come and share, and here I am, guys, and very grateful to be here. My program starts about 46 or more years ago, and my base program is Overeaters Anonymous. And I walked into that program. Well, I crawled into that program, basically a very defeated, frustrated, and just did not know what was wrong with me. I had never been in a 12-step program. I really had I knew of Alcoholics Anonymous, but that was about it. I had never walked through the doors of a 12-step program prior to that, but in desperation, I did show up. And fortunately, I did get abstinent pretty quickly. We did not have the study of the steps at that time. It was very new in my area, at least. I know it had been out in California for a few years, but here on the East, as far as I know, is pretty new. And I lost my weight, but I didn't stay abstinent. I never put my weight back on, but I didn't stay abstinent. And I'll tell you, slim is not well, and without the tools and the steps, I just always say my brain would drive me back to the food. It wouldn't matter whether I didn't eat flour or sugar, which I don't. I don't adulterate my food. I keep it plain and simple. There's only one reason for that. I'm not a dieter. I'm an addict. So I didn't know about that either. This is a whole new country to move into. And it's been an adventure. I have done a lot of AWOLs, and they came into force really when what I belong to is an OE90 part of Overeaters Anonymous. It's under the umbrella of Overeaters Anonymous. And that's when I got abstinent and have never gone back to relapsing back into flour or sugar, or not weighing and measuring my food. And once that came into being, they started the AWOLs, because I think they had connected with people in the fellowship, had connected with people in AA to find out, why did they stay abstinent and we did not? So, and that was part of it. And part of OA90 was to get into an AWOL right away. Well, yeah. And so that's what I did. And it hasn't been a smooth ride whatsoever, because life is life, and it's going to dish us a lot of hands. But this is the rudder on my boat. And doing the program the way I do it keeps my sails up straight. It keeps me from taking in water, and that's what I want. I don't want to be breaking down on every corner. So I continue to do this. It isn't a matter. I actually got abstinent after I was slim. Slim was what brought me in, but I have a lot more to lose than my dress size if I don't continue to do this. And I do several meetings a week. I belong to more than one program now. After my husband died, he had 2 transplants of the kidney. He had ill health. Things just started to happen to him. And it was a long journey. And I am grateful. My topic was basically what it says in the big book. We alcoholics are undisciplined, so we let God discipline us in this simple way of just outlined, which at this point, it's on page 88 of the big book, if you're not familiar with that. And it is, it's in the chapter Into Action. And I was totally undisciplined. I was rebellious. I wanted to be a free spirit. I didn't want to be nailed down. And so, that's who I was. I wasn't but I totally, and the other thing I've discovered is that I do have some attention deficit, and programs that are disciplined and require accountability really work for me. Um, the next program that I went into, and this was after my husband died, I had a little job, but I always had confidence that I would have a backup for income if I needed it. So I felt comfortable having that. But once I retired, um, I did it. I have a financial planner, and it's like he said I could, blah, blah, blah. I did. But there was always a caveat in it. And I said, what's the caveat? I said, if I retire. And he said, well, he said, I'm going to give you uh, a, a certain amount to live on in a year. If you stay within that amount, he said, you will be okay. If you don't, you won't. I thought, oh, I can do that. But very shortly after I retired, I went away with a girlfriend, and we had a plan. I was not in a program for money at that time, and we had a plan of how it brought it. We I was having a meal served by the hotel for breakfast. We brought our lunch, and we go out for supper. We had a couple of things planned that we were going to do. Hot springs and massage and stuff like that. It was just a weekend, and then we'd be on our way. And the first night I went out and spent money. My mother gave me $50, and I spent another 50. We went down the streets of Saratoga, and I saw the SALE sign in a window, and I was in. And it's always funny. I'm always with people that say, "Oh, Lorrie, that looks great on you. You should get it," but they're not spending any money. And so by the time I got home, I smelled addiction. I thought, oh my God, I'm retired. This could be bad. So I didn't wait to crash and burn on this one. I had heard about Debtors Anonymous. I think I had probably heard more about the disciplines under Earners Anonymous, but I went into Debtors Anonymous, and that worked for a while. I set up a spending plan there, but I always go into my 12-step programs with this attitude. I don't think I'm that bad. I just don't think I'm as bad. Bad or good. This isn't about being bad or being good. Addiction is not about that. So it's about a disease that I can't control, something that's beyond my control. I take it and it takes me. And so I just thought I got to do something about this right away, because there's no way at this stage and age of my life I want to end up in trouble with money. I did not owe. I was not in debt. But I thought it's no place I ever want to go. I don't have to hit bottom in this one. It was hard for me to climb into on board when I'm not in a state of desperation. With my food, I was in a state of desperation. And desperation is not bad. But I will say I ended up in the How program, which is also, again, a more disciplined program. OA 90, a more disciplined program, a more accountable program. I do well in those situations. And so I jumped. And I jumped. Held off. I didn't know about it when I joined Debtors Anonymous. I just knew about Debtors Anonymous. I did not know about the How program. It happened that a member that I was acquainted with in my OA 90 program also had become a part of How DA. And and I was talking to her, and she said to me, Lorrie, she said, what would I be doing if I'm in OA 90? She said, I just knew I needed to be in the more disciplined form of of DA. She said, I just knew that. I had heard about it by this time, but I wasn't jumping in. I had two other people in my life who were in Debtors Anonymous and How Debtors Anonymous. And I just thought, I just do not have the time for that. That is too demanding, that there's too much going on there that I will be responsible for doing. And then I remembered what I had learned in my OA base program. And that is that I work my, I do not work, I work my life around my program, not my program around my life. And I thought, you have to stop fooling around with this if you're going to do anything. And I'd also felt at that time that I was drifting out. I had made progress, but I was going nowhere. The rest of my group was happy go lucky. And I was like, you know, this is a little scary. I have to continuously be willing to grow and change. And I thought, this is a little scary. I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere. And so I moved. I jumped over. I made the decision. I changed my day. I got onto a meeting that day, and I have not looked back. It's been a struggle, not with the money, but with what I'm required. But I don't think I could have done it without my base in Overeaters Anonymous. You know, I had a sponsor that told me to, she would not sponsor me unless I went to the meeting she attended, which was on Monday nights. And that's another big part of my life is caretaking. As I mentioned, my husband had he had Crohn's, and then he had kidney failure, and both of us were astounded when the kidney doctor told us that he had 4% function. And you know, we both sat there, and he left the room, and we looked at each other, and I said, "What did he say?" Because I thought he must have said you have 4% function, but that's not what he said. And so you know, we began our journey. It actually began before that, when he had Crohn's and blew a hole in his intestine, and that was you know, it's a journey. Life will deal us all kinds of things. I was so grateful that I was in Overeaters Anonymous, and I think often uh, God, my higher power, brings me into these programs when I need them, and because I I always believed in God. I was practiced to some extent my religion, but getting into these 12-step programs brought me into a personal relationship with a higher power. And of course, because I was in disciplined forms of this, when my husband had to be on, to some extent, obviously, we had to work our lives around him having dialysis 3 times a week. And, you know, I could do that. And if I couldn't take him because one of them was on my meeting night, he was on self-care when we began his first transplant. And I would bring him up. I would get him on the machine. I'd needle him. And then I'd leave and go to my meeting on Thursday nights. And then after my meeting, I'd go back, clean up the machine with him, get him, you know, get him home. So I'm so grateful for the disciplines I had. I knew that I could be disciplined enough to live our lives around what he needed. And I kind of compared what he did. The dialysis is basically cleans your blood out. Your kidneys are no longer doing that. And I really felt like that's what I do here in these 12-step programs. I have wires in my head that need to be straightened out. My thinking, I have to begin every day on my knees in prayer, in meditation, in my literature. I frequently go to meetings. I have committed meetings, 3 for my Overeaters Anonymous program. My Debtors Anonymous program requires 1. And then the last program that I've joined is Workaholics Anonymous. And what brought me into Workaholics Anonymous was the fact that I played a large part in my mother's care. I had a sister, but she was not capable of participating She's since passed. She passed in 2019. I often thought she may pass before my mother, but I really did not. The reality of that happening is so much different than thinking it might happen. But it did. Her health was poor. She was not able to contribute other than being a marvelous support via phone and an occasional visit. Um, so I was thrown into a role that I never planned on, and that was basically I left because I did not handle the finances in my marriage. My father handled the finances in my family of origin, and my father died at 87. My mother died at 102 and a half. And my husband died uh, in his 60s. He had just reached retirement age at 65. Not that he had been working, he had not. He had been out on long-term disability for a long time. And so, now I'm in charge, right? I'm in charge of my money, I'm in charge of her money, and I'm in charge of her care. Also being a participant personally in her care, and also basically starting a business to provide care for her, because I found that home health agencies were not dependable and did not work out well as a consequence. And healthcare people kept changing, which is not good for people. I don't consider my mother ever had Alzheimer's, but she had dementia. I think she always knew me. And I really think she knew her caretakers, not by name, but she knew who they were and what days they were going to be in. But anyway, my mother had been dead. She died in 2021, and it was 2023. And I thought to myself, or it was about a year and a half, maybe a year and a half afterwards. And I thought to myself, how come I still can't get to my self care? And I was talking about this on an outreach call. And this person very quietly said, I think I can help you. All right. What does that mean? So she told me about Workaholics Anonymous. She was not participating in it herself at the time, but she had been a part of it. And that has begun my journey in there. And it's an astounding journey, but so much different than my other two programs, which have tools. When in my overeaters in the program, 3 meetings are well, they're suggested, but you do them. The thing is, why bother to join a program if you're not going to follow the suggestions? Why bother to get a sponsor if you're not willing to follow and do what is suggested to you? It's like, hey, I've already tried running my own show. It didn't work. That's how I ended up in these seats. So I had plenty of time to try to figure this out myself. And I tried a lot of stuff, and it didn't work. And here I am in a complete state of desperation in my OA program. So 3 meetings, 3 phone calls, 3 meals. And that's, people have health issues, so they have to be accommodated. I mean, things have to be flexible so that medical issues have to be accommodated. That's how I work my program. But basically, yes, and it wasn't required, but God, the steps of the foundation, foundation of, foundation. There's 2 things that happened when Bill and Bob met. The first was Bob had more of the spiritual aspect, but I think that was also brought in by Ebby, who was coming out of the Oxford group, who was basically told, you give away what you've been given if you want to keep it. And that's what we do here, and that's why I'm here. So, and then, so Bill had that, and Bob had the spiritual side, but also Bill was introduced to the spiritual side through Ebby, and I think he thought he was a drunk, and now he's a religious crackpot. But whatever it was, he was sober and Bill wasn't. And that's the difference. You know, are you staying sober or aren't you? Are you falling off the wagon every time you turn a corner? I don't want to belong to programs that I'm in that situation. I want a firm foundation underneath me. I was talking about my Workaholics Anonymous program. I don't consider myself a work. I would have never gone in there. And to my complete shock and surprise, um, I answered all the questions in the affirmative. So, you know, that you ask, is this the criteria that you belong here? But the opposite side of being a workaholic is procrastination, perfectionism, which will tie anybody up in a knot. And so my journey, I thought to myself, my sponsor that I did not get until a few months ago, they're very hard to find. And it's I think more of a new program. It's beginning to come into its own. But it was a whole new thing. No disciplines, nothing you had to do. Nobody was telling me how many meetings to go to. And it was a good thing they didn't, because my food program and my Debtors Anonymous program, they run pretty much side by side in the amount of disciplines and work I do. And I commit my food every day. I commit my money every day. I commit how much I spent every day to my sponsor every morning. And then I commit what I'm going to spend for the next day. I commit my food every day. You know, I don't have to. If anything happens to that commitment, I definitely have to get a hold of that sponsor sooner rather than later. But sooner rather than later, because that little old rationalizing, justifying, manipulating mind of mine will come in, and the truth can go out the door, and that only bodes. Anything that's not brought out into the open will multiply, and I want to go in the upward direction, not the downward, in all my programs. So, Workaholics Anonymous, it was like one side of an Overeaters Anonymous. There are overeaters and there are undereaters. There are bulimics. There are people who are not necessarily manifesting overweight, but they have this disease. And the same with Workaholics Anonymous. There are those people that, you know, spend, and those are those people that work, and those are those people who avoid. So are work avoiders. I don't think I'm particularly a work avoider, but if I'm really worried about something, I will drag my feet for sure, unconsciously and not deliberately. It's the fight and flight instinct just comes up, bang. And getting to recognize it and not letting it take over is what I'm in here for. In the spending program, you can overspend or be a miser. I don't want to do either one. You know, I want to know what I have, what I can spend, and what I can't. And it's the same. And if you don't have it, you can't spend it. And if it's not on my food plan, there's no such thing as being good that you ate less and bad if you ate more. It's just these are not good and bad situations. These are addictions. These are diseases that take over the mind, body, and spirit. So, yeah, so they work very well if I work them. That's it. And I don't do that on my own. There's nothing in here I do on my own. Doing this program, I told my WA sponsor, said, I want you to do a plan. Each one has these tools. And she said, I want you to do a plan for your day. And I said, that's not going to work for me. I said, I want to run for the hills. And the reason I wanted to run for the hills is this is a program that really brings me face to face with Lorrie. And Lorrie does not want to see what she cannot do. I don't want to be told or know that I can't make that happen somehow. So I said, I want to run for the hills. I said, I want to lead. And she said, all right. She said, pray for a week for the willingness. And I did. And I have more willingness. And I've come in from the backside. And that means that I have pillars. I have pillars in the program. And now these programs are all linked together. And my pillars are my meal times, my time to get my homework done for my DA program. And I have about 45 minutes of homework to do in that every night, every day. And it is also my bedtime. So those are my pillars. And then once I can establish those, because those are absolutes in my life, those are things. My bedtime was not an absolute. That's just something I work on every night. And as I do it, I discover what blocks me and what I have to do to change in order to prevent that from repeating itself. Because change is always required. I can't stay the same as I am. I don't want to. I'm in my late 70s. I have to say this to myself. I'm 79. I'm working on my 80th year. And I tell myself that because my spirit is young, but my body will say, you know, be careful. So, yeah, this is interesting. So anyway, you know, this is my journey. I'm, this was, I need to be challenged. It's good for me to be challenged at this age, even though some of me wants to say, wait a minute, let me just float. But there's no floating in programs. There's no hovering. I'm either moving forward or I'm moving backwards. There's no hovering here. And I want to go on the upward. I want to be on the upward end of things, not the spiraling end of things. But that being said, it's like these addictions are what I've come to understand and believe is that they are irrational. So there's nothing rational about addiction. We do what we don't want to do. We do things that, I do things I do not want to do. I didn't want to overeat. I never meant to eat till the bottom of the container. I always wanted to leave. It wasn't my goal in life, you know what I mean? And with my money, I don't want to be miserly and I don't want to spend like a drunken sailor. I don't want to end up in trouble with my money. And with I don't want to burn myself out. The drug in Workaholics Anonymous is adrenaline. And I have to tell you, that has been such an eye opener for me. I understand I understand the drug, food in my food program, money in my money program. What the heck is the drug in this program? And it's adrenaline. And I always thought when I woke up adrenalized, it was a great day. I was going to get everything done that I never had the time, had the energy to do before. I was going to, you know, uh, just lick the world. But in every one of these programs, there are disciplines and there are awarenesses that I never had before. And when I pay attention and I'm willing to follow programs that help me with these things and turn me around, it's just amazing the benefits that I get from this. And I believe anybody who comes in contact with me benefits, whether they know it or not. My family was not always supportive because it changed their lives too. I've talked and talked and talked. Karen, do I stop? Do I go for questions or what happens here?
I was just riveted. So thank you for asking. I did not want to interrupt you because that was just so powerful. And I definitely gained so much from all that you said and shared. You opened up a new world for me with your WA program, your OA program. I still relate to wanting to run for the hills and wanting to be adrenalized and a free spirit. So I have some questions I wrote down. Will everybody just either raise their hands or write a question in the chat? Lorrie, are you able to look at who raised their hands and call on them one by one and take questions?
Well, wait a minute. I don't know if I have every bit. I'm going to press this little blue thing here. All right, so there are 9 people on, so those all fit on one screen. I don't see any hands raised. I'm going to go look in the chat and see. Oh, somebody asked what is an AWOL. Okay, so I will tell you what an AWOL is. It is called an abstinent way of life. It is not, I belong to 12-step programs, so 12-step programs do not have rules and they do not have leaders. So in AWOLs, you have all of those. You have rules and you have leaders, so they are not under the 12-step umbrella. But when I came into Overeaters Anonymous, there was in this area, I don't know if there was anybody that stayed back to back abstinent. It was kind of poltergeisty. And so AWOLs were established then because there just was no abstinence around. And we needed to have a group of people that would commit. It's a group you commit to. And that was unheard of then too. Like you only commit for a day. We stay abstinent for 24 hours. So this was under the concept that we were going to sign on. I always looked at it like I boarded a ship. I'm signing on here for the duration, which would be approximately a year. And we do a study of the steps, but there would be, in each AWOL would have their own requirements, like you could only miss one meeting. Like, if you were not abstinent, you would have to leave the group. And basically that was not punishment. That was if we're building a base. The base is the first 3 steps. And then we build up. If you don't, like you probably heard this, it's a 3-legged stool. The first 3 steps, you're powerless. You came to believe, in a power, and then you made a decision to turn your life and will over. If you do not have those 3 steps down, then you need to go back. You're missing something. Go back and rebuild your foundation. But they would have rules. So that's what it's a closed study of the steps with leaders and rules. And then question, how does your self-care work with service, living a life of unselfishness? Wait a minute. I think there's more here. Please, can you explain the undisciplined aspect of a disciplined WA program? Well, I'll tell you, WA, thank you, God, does not, it's a very gentle program. I don't think I brought, they have the Workaholics Anonymous Book of Recovery. It's a great book. I just so love that book. And I would just buy the book. Honestly, it'll tell you so much. What happens is that my eventually, because I didn't know when you'd break out, it took me about a year because this was so foreign to my brain not to have disciplines and accountability and all of this stuff. So I didn't know. It took me a while. At one of my meetings, they have what they call top lines and bottom lines. And your top line is what you're trying to achieve. So I want to go to bed. I didn't want to go to bed at 10 because I'm going to be getting up at 4 usually, but 4:30, whatever. So and your bottom line is if you cross that. So my bottom line was 10, my top line was 9:30. I can go beyond my top line and not break my abstinence in that program. But when I go over my top line, my bottom line, which was 10, I break abstinence. So, my sponsor, I began to realize what happened is I began to realize the earlier I ate my meals, I've always wanted to know how to have more time in my day. Because a day is only 24 hours. But how do I get more time? My war cry was, I need more time and more energy. And what I found is that the earlier I ate my meals, the more space I had, because that's foundational. My abstinence is foundational. That's at an absolute in my life. So I found I had more time. And once I found I had more time, then that allowed me to have a more workable base. But it's a learning process, but there's no going back to day one. There's nothing. it really is a very gentle program. So, but I think service is just, I'm trained. I know that I have to serve. I know whatever program and I try to do my service at the meeting. I'm not somebody that usually does much above the meeting level. And that's because I just don't have enough time to go outside and do meetings and show up at other meetings outside of what the regular meeting is. Please, can you explain undisciplined aspect of the disciplined WA program? So those my discipline is, so my sponsor, after I said, Lorrie, we're going to use your pillars and your bedtime as your beginning with your, my boundaries. This is where I'm going to be working at for my disciplines in my WA program is that. And the homework is not committed with her, but my homework, I try to get that done. I do not want to do it the morning of, like, thank you, God. My homework is done. I'll phone my DA sponsor at 8:30 this morning. But I like to wake up and go right into quiet time, reading my literature and stuff. So that's the disciplined aspect, is to have your top lines and bottom lines. And that's what I have with my sponsor. And I talk to her once a week, and I will, be accountable to her. I'd let her know what I'm doing and how I'm doing. And thank you, God, all my sponsors are very encouraging. They're not discouraging. So, but it's not, I think most of us that are in WA have other programs going on. She herself, this is her first program. So let me see if there's another question here. I hope that helped. Is there anybody? I'll go back and look and see if there's a hand raised. So, all right, thank you. Are you asking? This is a message from Tammy, and I think it says the OAgram. Is that maybe that's the OA program? I don't participate in AWOLs any longer. The last, I will say that I had gotten to a point in my program that I was in OA at the time. I think I had started DA when I was doing my writing for what they call is basically the Hyannis method of doing the steps through the big book. And I will say prior to that, as far as my 12-step work was, I think looking back, I was drifting out, honestly. I had nothing new to share as far as recovery in the 12 steps. My spiritual growth was going. And it took a while. I was very snobbish, very arrogant about not doing the steps through the big book step study, very arrogant about it. At the time I was beginning it, there were no OA big book step study meetings. Now there are several. And I got introduced to it through a friend. And I at the time I went to AA big book step studies. And I just thought these people have nothing over the AWOLs I've done with the leaders that I've been in. Very arrogant. What brought me into doing the big book step study was two things. My husband was still alive, and I wanted a better relationship with him. And the other was that, oh my God, my brain just dropped it. I just had it revealed to me that, I don't know, my friend, I would talk to her a lot, and she never pushed it on me. She was just telling her what she did. How do you structure our days? What program helps that? The program that helps the structure in my day is my WA program. They're all kind of linked together. But anyway, it's through the big book step study that my life has changed. It was like breathing mouth-to-mouth resuscitation into my program. I structure my day around my pillars. my meetings. They are committed. I always, even if my committed meetings, I don't work and do stuff. I sit down and listen. And if I can, I participate as a timer or read something there. I try to be a participant. But I also, and I try to stand back also and let other people participate. But anyway, so my bedtime and stuff like that came. Some of the people get this out of OA. You know, I have to allow at least 4 hours between my meals. So that's a structure right there. I have 3 meals a day. I can do that. My body works fine on 3 meals a day. Thank you, God. And so how do I structure my days? What programs help? But the program that helps me most, but I will say some people in OA have a lot of structure around what time they eat their meals. I didn't get that. I think I was so new. I was one of the beginning people out in this area. You know, okay, I came in at 33, so I'm one of the beginning people in this area. So I didn't get that structure that a lot of people that have come in since then have definite meal times. So that structure was in there for them. And I think their sleep, it's like don't get too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. So sponsors were watching for those things. I didn't get that foundation. So WA is providing that for me. And it's awesome. That's all I'm going to say. I'm just there. It's work, and it's being willing to get more honest and look at myself. What is my reality? What can Lorrie do, and what can she not do? What do I value? My WA sponsor said, look at it as a jar of rocks. And she said, you know, you want to put the big rocks in first, which are my priorities. It's what's real value to your life when you have to really sit down and think, what do I value most? If this is my life, what is most important to me? And because my family is not my children are all married. I have grandchildren that are becoming adults now. So this is what do I value? And then there are some things like when I used to just walk by a table and look at a catalog. I don't do that. Please, can you talk about healthy, balanced sponsorship, sponsees, sponsoring? Well, that's that again. This WA program makes me look at all of that. How much time am I spending on the phone? How long are my conversations? You know, I walk a dog, so sometimes as long as I can do it in a quiet area, I'll make phone calls out while I'm walking my dog because it takes no brains to walk my dog and I can concentrate on the conversation. So, but I don't want to be doing dishes and stuff like that and clanking in people's ears when my sponsees, I sit down and I listen. But I have a cutoff point. I had to, realize I can't say yes to everybody, that they have to fit into my schedule. If they ask me to be a sponsor, they have to call me at a time that works for me. And I'm required to sponsor one person in my DA program. No, there are no requirements in WA. So wait a minute. But I realize that this is more up to me. And I don't know if I would have been ready for this if you throw me into OA and said, the dignity of choice allowed me no dignity. I'm not somebody that needs choice when it comes down to my food plan. I needed to be told, and I knew I was brought up in a healthy household, but I needed somebody because I had done all kinds of things with that program. In DA, I needed to find out. I mean, the thing is, if you don't got it, you can't spend it. If I don't have the time and the energy, I can't give it away. If I don't have the money, I don't belong going out there and spending money I don't have. If I don't, with the food, there's a line drawn in the sand where my body, we've got what my body functions on. I don't need to go looking for anything else. Can you talk about balance, budget, and sponsees? I hope that helps. My priority is always my food program because it's my base program. You know, my DA program is edged up close to that. And my I've seen, I had an incident happen recently, and I saw how all three programs played into it. And I thought, wow, these are all really linked together. So, you know, it's with God's help. You know, when they say pray constantly in the big book, we used to be mesmerized, like how many musts. You're not supposed to tell an addict they must do anything, but there are musts in the big book, quite a few. There are a lot of promises, but they're always conditional on your spiritual condition, conditional that you do this. If you do this, you'll get this. Look for them. They're all over the big book. But then there's this word constantly. I'm like, are you kidding? Think about that. That means without stopping. Well, I can't tell you I do that, but I do know the longer I stay in, the more I pray. Not less, more. I need my higher power, whom I call God, more, not less. So, and I'm a work in progress. And that's, you know, the good news is that I know I don't have to be perfect. And one of the most lovely things when I was really upset one day when I opened my WA book to the principles, and it said, you know, whatever you did for today is good enough for now. That gave me so much peace because I'm perfectly imperfect. And, you know, I show up and do my best each day. Some days are better than others. So, one of the things they say in WA, you know, go gently, go, they call it flowly, go with the flow. So, and of course, I can to an extent, but I'm aware of my adrenaline. I never want to go back. Once I became aware one day when I woke up after being introduced to this program, and I found the adrenaline running. And the problem with that is by the end of the day, I couldn't shut it off. And that's a drug I can't stay control of. I back away from it. I am an adrenaline making machine. So, and this is very important information because it affects my other programs. So I don't know, a lot of information. Grateful to be here. I know I'm coming up to my last few minutes. Karen, do you want to guide me? Do I stop? I don't know. So I guess, you know, with somebody asked about healthy balance, watch what you're doing. Watch how much time you're spending and where you're spending it. Probably a lot of you have families, so it's program family job.
Wow. This is just so amazing. Lorrie, can you please put your contact info in the chat if people want to reach out to you?
I could do that.
Get a sponsor, whether for WA 90-day DA, you can refer them to some people or send around some stairs. I definitely look forward to being in touch with you. I related to so much. I guess my one last question is, and maybe being addicted to spirituality is a good thing, but how do you manage not being addicted to so many programs? Or is it just limiting the number of sponsees, limiting the time? How do you make sure you're not, addicted to addiction programs,
You know, that's a good question. I don't know, but what I know is that every time I get into one of these, like, I think the two big things in life are, to have a quality life is to be healthy. And God knows the world runs on money, right? I'm an earthling. So I have to deal with, if I'm not healthy, forget it. I'm not going to be showing up anywhere. And if I'm, I do not want to end up on my children's doorsteps. That's all I know. So I feel that these are two programs that are essential to a quality life. And then as far as the adrenaline goes, that has been such an eye opener for me. I think this is a gentle program. There's not a lot of requirements in there. You go at your pace in this program. So I don't feel demands, on me in there. If I do what I can when I can. And that's not but I need it too. So I don't know. I don't know what to say as far as that goes, but I don't know. I mean, where am I going to go? I don't want to. I feel this. I'm not cured. That's the problem. See, you don't get cured. You're on daily reprieves. So, Karen, I'm just going to be here and do
Yes.
this for now. That's all I know.
Amazing, amazing. So without further ado, I hope you put your number in the chat. Anybody can reach out if they like. I'm going to ask Lorrie to pray us out, and then we'll close down this meeting with that prayer, taking us into the day.
All right, I'm going to go and find the 7-step prayer. Second, guys, I think it's 76. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. Karen, if you can-
Amazing.
okay. Are we good?
Thank you
Oh,
so much. Thank you,
You're
everybody,
welcome.
for being here.
You're welcome. Have a beautiful,
day.
everybody. Thank you so much.
I see we have, a couple of minutes. If anyone has any questions for Lorrie, if that's okay with you, will you want to stay on till 12 to see if anyone has any burning questions? I'm going to go on to my next commitment now, trying to let God discipline this addict. But if Lorrie's willing and anyone has a personal question for her, we have 2 more minutes left on the hour. Have a beautiful day. Thank you, Lorrie.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
I've seen stars fall from above. I've fallen in and out of love. I've been high and I've been low. Now I know I just can't do this on my own. I've seen a boy become a man. He got lost without a plan. He's so far away from home. Now I know I just can't do this on my own. Your arms surrounding me. Your touch is grounding me. No longer searching for purpose all alone. 'Cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. I'm looking for the words to say. You make the world a better place, and I can call that place my home. 'Cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. Your arms surrounding me. Your touch is grounding me. No longer searching for purpose all alone. 'Cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. So let me see just what you need to set you free, so we can be. I saw stars fall from above. I fell in and out of love. I got high and I fell low. But now I know that I just can't do this on my own. No, I just can't do this on my own. I just can't do this on my own.